We'll now discuss the different types of loops that you can have, programming, and also an if statement as a conditional statement. These are probably the two most important things in VBA programming. The two most important programming constructs are the for loop and the if statement. So let's consider the for loop first of all. The for loop is one of the most useful, and we use an integer which is, so we'll take the code. This is an excerpt from my book Excel VBA in Easy Steps. So let's just try that out. So I've copied that particular code, and now I'm going to put a button on the sheet. So I need to just make that a bit bigger there, and take a look at the VBE at the same time. So I'm going to insert a button as we did last time, and then double click on the button, and then I'll paste that code in there. And I'll just indent that as we ought to do. And so I've got here what we call a for loop. For and next, they both go together. You won't see one without the other. It says here for I equals 1 to 3. That means the variable I has got the values of 1, 2 and 3 automatically incremented for us. And then so it will use the value of I, and then it will message box out this bit of text here, and then continue down to this line, and then it will return back to here and then repeat the process. In other words, it will do it 3 times. I mean, this is the general idea of programming, that you want the computer to do things for you repetitively, and this is what it's all about, is a loop, a for loop. So I'm going to take the design off, which I can do here, and then run the program by clicking the button. And as you see, I get the a message box which should appear 3 times. Well, that's the simplest type of loop that we can imagine. Not very useful, but that's the general idea. What we'll do now is to consider another bit of code here, very similar, so I really just need to change that particular line and see what that actually does. I can now paste that bit of code in there and see what difference that makes. Message box, C string I. C string means convert to a string. Remember that the message box really should only accept text, and this value of I is indeed an integer or a number, so we need to convert it to a string, or a string, as we remember, means text, so it converts. That means convert to string the integer I. It might actually work without it, but it's not supposed to. Okay, so it should just loop around, and what does it print out? It should print out the value of I each time. Let's see if that works. So if I click my command button, that's the value of I as we go around. We have what we call a breakpoint. Now a breakpoint, if we click just slightly to the left here, in this margin, it puts a maroon coloured, or brown or reddish coloured blob. Now what that means is when we run the code, it will actually stop at that position. So when I run the code, click the button, the yellow line indicates that that line is just about to be executed. How do I actually execute it? I press the F8 key. If I press F8 now, it will single step. But before I do that, I'll just hold my mouse over the value of I. Isn't that nice? It shows you what the current value of I is. So if I press F8, that gives me my value of 1. It will continue down here, and then it'll go back to the for loop. Oh dear, it doesn't quite go back to the for loop, but which is a bit of a pity, but it doesn't matter. We get the idea. It's going round and round here. See, successively incrementing the value of I. So you see I's got the value of 2, and now if I press F8 again, it single steps, and then I's got the value of 2, and then next time around I will have the value of 3, and then I will message box the 3. You'd probably expect it to stop there, but oh gosh, I is 4. Well, that's the indication to the computer, please stop this, I had enough, I is 4. But it's a bit strange that it sort of goes over the edge and gives you the value of I is 4. For all intents and purposes, just think of it being I having the value of 1, 2, 3. So I can just press the F8 and that will just finish the program altogether. If I want to get rid of the breakpoint, simple as that, I just simply click on the breakpoint and it will get rid of that breakpoint. Okay, now we'll talk about using cells, the word cells. If I'm going to take a bit of code from the next page of the book, which is cells 1, 2. Well, I'll just describe what that does actually. Cells 1, 2 means row 1, column 2. Now, and row 1, column 2 is down row 1 and then column 2. It will place the value of 3. You can see that cells has got the same functionality as range. You see, range B1 gives the same effect as cells 1, 2. What's the difference? We'll talk about it in a moment. So you can see that cells 1, 2 puts in the value of 3 in this position. Well, what is the difference in using cells and range? Answer: you can use a variable inside cells, but you can't do that with a range. So in this case, I'm just going to take this code and place that in my command button. I'll just move this out of the way and then put that into the command button and see how that changes things. Well, if I paste that in and fix it up a bit, and I like indenting my code, so I'll click here and press the tab key. Now, what is that going to do? For I equals 1 to 5, it's going to put the value of 10. Well, let's just run the program. It puts a series of 10s down here. It happened so quickly, it all looked as if it happened at the same time, but it did. Well, what I'll do, I'll just delete those, and here's a cool tip for deleting stuff in Excel. Just click and drag back upwards, will delete. For I equals 1 to 5, that means it takes the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What I'll do is put a breakpoint in here as well. And now, if I click my command button, you can see the value of I is 1 at the moment. And if I press the F8 key, then you can watch what happens on the screen as well. Over here, you'll see that the value of 10 is placed in there. And then the value of I8 will continue around. The value is 2. It'll put another in cells 2, 1. Remember, this is 2, row 2, column 1. If you forget which one comes first, Rose, remember the girl's name, Rose Collins, because Rose comes first and then the column. So it's row 2, column 1, you put the value of 10. So I'll just keep pressing F8 and you can see that it will F8 rather than F9, thank you. F8 will keep putting the values down until it reaches I is equal to 5, and then it will basically finish. But we all know that it's actually 6, but that's a bit of an anomaly. Never mind. Okay, well that's what the use of the for loop. We can also consider the if statement. So if we take a look at the book, it says another extremely important statement is the if-then pair. Now once again, the if and then come as a pair. So you see here you've got an if and then you've got a then. You always have a then when you've got an if. So what I'm going to do is to try out this particular code here. I'm going to copy that and I'll just move this out of the way and then talk about the if. I'm going to take this breakpoint off and stop the code, and then paste my very simple if statement in here. Dim I is integer, which I've got twice, so we'll get rid of that. Now it says here, if I equals 2, then cells 1 1, well, cells 1 1 is up here. Let me just get rid of this stuff here and delete that. So what's going to appear up here? Well, it's really but ridiculously easy. I has got the value of 2. If I equals 2, then put cells such and such 1 1 equal to yes. So what's going to happen? A yes is going to appear up here fairly obviously. Well, let me just delete that and change this to something else, like I equals 3. Now I is definitely not equal to 2, so when I click the button nothing happens. Now let me just go back to putting that back into the value of 2. So if I were to click that, it would give the value of yes. But so the if and the then, you see, they go together. Now let me do something a little strange. What I'm going to do is to click after the then, and then when I do that, I need to put another statement in, which is end if. Remember, always use small letters, capitalize it for you, and you know that you've got your spelling right. It's not always easy to remember. You know, does it end if? Does that go together, or is it two words, or what? So you know, it's not there's stuff to remember. Okay, now what's going to happen in this situation? Well, I is 2, and so what do you think is going to happen? Let's click the button and find out. Oh, exactly the same thing that happened before. So I'm going to just stop that, and I'll delete the yes in case we want to put something else in there. Now, just remember what we had before. In fact, I'll do a bit of undo. And there it is, you see. That is the equivalent statement to, when I'm going to do a redo, just take a good look at that. Notice that the if and the then are on the same line. And if I do a redo, you see, that's exactly the same thing. Then you might say, well, goodness me, why did you go to the trouble of doing that? The answer is, this is what we can term as a block of code. And when we have a block, we can put more than one statement in there. Now what I'll do is press the enter at the end of this line and then put in another statement. Now here's something people don't use enough of, and that's the control drag. If I highlight this and then I'm holding down the control key and just drag this down, it will absolutely copy the line. Another thing, a little bit of a shortcut, is if you want to change the text in here, I double click on it. So I'll say double click here, and I'll say and I'll put something else in here, and then I want to change, I want to put it over here, shall we say, instead of in there. So I'll put in there, I'm going to put row 1 column 2. So can you predict what's going to happen? Is I 2? It certainly is. So if I is 2, then do both of these things, you see, so that what's going to happen? Can you predict? Let's find out. It's going to put yes in here, and of course here, because yes is put in the cell 1 1, and of course is going to be put into the cell 1 2. So you can see the point of having if and end if, because you can therefore have more than one statement within that block. Don't forget, if and then are always on the same line. Now, another reason why we might use the if and if construct is this. We might want to put an else situation, so that's what I will do. And I'll type here else, and then what should I do? Well, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll control drag this down here. Else cells, where should we put it? Should we put it here? Okay, now what is that? That has got the value row 2 column 1. So row 2 column 1 should be that point there, and what are we going to put in here? I don't know, a bit of text. Now let me just see that that's still working. I might just indent this by clicking here and pressing the tab. Now just to see that it's still working, I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to just see that it's still working as before. I's got the value of 2, so if I is equal to 2, then do this stuff here. Let's see if that's still working. Yes, it is. Okay, so I'll just delete that now and then start again, because what I'll do is put in a value of something other than 2, in other words 3. So that now what's going to happen? If I click the button, let's see. It's going to put no in this because it's the else situation, you see. I's got the 3. It says here, if I equals 2. Well, it's not. So it jumps straight down to here and does that. Let's see how if we can show that using a breakpoint. So if I click, I'll just get rid of the no here for the moment and see that it works again. Well, let me put a breakpoint here. Okay, now if I run it, if I hold my mouse on the value of I, it says, oh, I is 3. So if I now press the F8, where's it going to go? Let's see. Ready? Go. It goes straight down here. It ignores all that stuff there and goes to this statement here. And when I press the F8 again, bingo, I got no is being placed in here. So that's the for loop and the if statement. As I say, they're probably the most important constructs in the whole of programming. So make sure you learn the format, the way that they're put here. Remember, if and then is always on the same line. If and end if you want you want a block of code. Okay.